All right. Welcome to part two of Motherwit, Everyday Wisdom for your mental health and well being. I'm just doing my little tech check to make sure everything's showing up as it's supposed to, and it seems to be going all right. So, welcome. I also recently learned that Mother's Day is celebrated in some countries on the equinox, which I thought was pretty cool. Because I always think about Mother Nature on the equinox and how Mother Nature has this rhythm, the spring into the summer, into the fall, into the winter, and how those seasons kind of cooperate with each other. So I think it's kind of cool that there are some countries who celebrate mothers on that day. Uh, I know my mother was one of the organizers in my life, and you can tell from this topic that mother wit and this wisdom that comes from our elders and that gets into us and helps us to cultivate ourselves is something that's very important to me. So welcome. I see some people have joined me. Welcome. You feel free to pop in the chat if you have questions as I'm going along. So today's topic in part two is purpose, power for your impact. And the mother with a star for the day is my maternal grandmother. So I want to share just a little bit about her before I jump into the topic, or as an entree into the topic. So this is my maternal grandmother. I think you can see her. I mentioned when I wrote the description for this topic that she was a hat wearer, right? Next to her is my great uncle, who was her younger brother, right? I think the brother right next to her. So you can see this hat she's wearing. Like, I don't think I could pull that off, but she pulled it off. She's actually wearing one of my favorite colors of blue in this one. And then here's another one of her. I don't know this lady, so I'll just I'll put, right? So here it is. She's wearing a hat here as well. And I have one of her hats that I'll show you later as well. So uh, the topic, purpose, power for your impact, is really about this whole idea of things that can throw us off track from being who we came to the world to be and how to get ourselves back on track to that, right? You know, one of my favorite questions to ask myself is, what does this have to do with who I came to the world to be? And often when we are driving hard, fulfilling our many roles, and we all have many roles, we can get lost and disconnected from what the meaning of life is for us, what gives life meaning for us, and what is that kind of special sauce that we feel that we bring to the world. So I want to talk a little bit about purpose and how purpose can help us recenter. My grandmother is the perfect person to help us delve into this topic. I like this topic because what happens oftentimes when people burn out is that they've actually turned their job into their purpose. They've decided that this job is their purpose. So if the job starts to go sour, or the culture is not good in the workplace, or there's a values misalignment, I've had clients who felt like this job doesn't align with my values anymore. When I came here, it was like this, but now I'm seeing something different. That values misalignment is what can lead people into burnout. One of the catalysts for burnout. So I want to talk about how purpose can help us get back on track and bring us into alignment with what we value and help us to do the work that matters to us, not only in our career, but in the rest of our lives. When we know that our purpose is something inside of us and the job we're doing is a mission, we're less likely to get caught up in burnout if something goes bad at the job, because we know there's purpose for us. Even if something is going bad at the job, if we can know our purpose, we might still be able to navigate to the kinds of work in that organization that really matters to us. Ultimately, though, if it's really in a bad situation, as I have seen sometimes, you may have to decide to leave that organization. So I'll tell you how my grandmother taught me about this idea of your job is not your purpose. Your purpose lives inside of you. Your job is a way for you to express your purpose, as is your role in your family, as is your role in the world, right? As it whatever else and even the way you relate to yourself relates to your purpose. So my grandmother, as I just showed you, she loved hats, and she wore different kinds of hats. Like, I could never pull that off. the two that I just showed you. Yes, no, I'm not pulling that off. I did try to pull one off when she passed away. We all wore one of her hats to her funeral. Um, and I felt good in it, but I felt like it's probably better on her, right? So my grandmother, clearly, she was a great dresser. I mean, she could put together a gorgeous outfit. Like even as a young person, I would look at her as an elder and say, I want to look like that when I get older, right? So she was really good at that. She was wearing these hats, and then she was also a great baker, a great cook. Now, when she cooked, she actually treated food like it was a person. So I remember one day somebody reheated some spaghetti at her house, and she said, "Oh, they don't know how to treat spaghetti." And I was like, "Treat it," because for her, it has a character, and in order for it to be its best, there's a certain thing you have to do to bring that out, right? And she was also a public speaker, speaking in churches, Women's Day, and again, there she was. So you can say to yourself, right? She was this cook, and because of her cooking skills, the last job she held was actually in a corrections facility, where actually sometimes she said, people say, "Yeah, Miss Jones, I'm back because I knew you was gonna be cooking." I mean, people get arrested to come and eat, right? That's not the best way to eat well, but it just speaks to how good her food was. People would ask her to bake cakes. Did you bake a cake? Right. So she was very good at this. And clearly, like I said, she thought about how to bring the best character out of food. Right. Thank you. And then she had this public speaking ability. I actually, a while ago, found one of her old speeches because I think I like took it from the house when she passed away. And so I have a little bit of her writing that I just sometimes look at and read. So she was eloquent. She had this eloquence about her. Now, you could say these are three separate things that my grandmother did and that she did them all well. But I can also see there's a thread. She's the person who taught me about having a mission versus a purpose, right? So, this thread that I see running through everything my grandmother did was to be able to bring out the best, either in people or in food or in herself, right? So it was for her, the motivator behind it was bringing out the best. And she would probably take it even a step deeper because she's very spiritual, is to really shine, right? From the depth of her soul, to shine in the way that she feels her God would want her to shine in the world. And that shining should be a light for others. That shining should show up whatever she is. So it should show up in her as a grandmother. It should show up in her as a person who's making food. It should show up in her as a person who's presenting herself to the public. So this is where sometimes we get lost. We don't kind of have that one thing that's kind of grounding us, that we know this is who we are. This is our thing that we do, and we do it well. And of course, there are other people who come to the world to bring out the best. Every one of those people, though, can have these unique ways of showing that. And that's what my grandmother taught me. When you get stuck in your work and you feel like, I'm drained, I don't feel the meaning in this work anymore, step back and start to look at how it matches to your purpose. If you have not done purpose work yet and you don't know what your purpose is, you don't have the words for it yet, then you can simply start by noticing how it's aligning with your values. Again, I'll mention this is one of the ways that people burn out. There's a values misalignment between where they are, what they believe, and what the workplace they're in is actually what the values that are operating in that workplace. So if you can make that connection, you can know those two things, then you can begin to actually shift your emotional state and move in a way that you're living actually from the inside of you out rather than from the outside in. If our job is our purpose, then if that job goes away, who are we? Right? If the job is your purpose, if the job goes away, then who are you? So we have to know who we are and what we bring to the mission of the work, right? So that if that work is not there, we actually have our own compass that guides us to the next thing, right? Um, so if you're one of those folks who feels like you're struggling with knowing that something is right for you, right? Knowing what your purpose is and knowing how the work you do aligns, right? That's something you want to get some support around. I would also say that when you know your purpose, it fuels your passion. It fuels your passion. It's like you know that you're here to bring out the best. And that actually stirs a desire in you. It stirs something that says to you, I want to move on this thing. It's like something will come up and you'll feel the little signal inside of you that says, yes, that matches me. And I want to go for that thing. Right. So there's this kind of passion. That's your energy. Right. And if we were to break it down in terms of energy management, we would say that that definitely fits in spiritual energy, because spiritual energy is about that sense of being fulfilled, that sense of having an idea that what you're doing brings you meaning and also makes a difference in the world. So when you know your purpose, you can start to stir your passion, even in the most difficult times in the world. And I guarantee you, my grandmother grew up in a time when she was facing hard racism on a regular basis. So this capacity she had to stay in connection with what really mattered to her had to come from deep inside of her, because there's a lot of obstacles in the world that you're confronting. And similarly, in this last few years, right, we've had several obstacles, and many of us are still continuing to face obstacles. We're also facing, this inflation and lots of things going on in the world. So we're at a place where we really want to get to this living from the inside out. Knowing your purpose helps you to be in charge of how you're moving in the world, what you take on as a mission, and how you move through it. I will also say to you that I've been in a workplace that I fell out of love with, because there was a shift in the culture. And I was like, oh, okay, this is not the work I want to do. I don't want to work here. This is not it. So what I did, because there were parts of the job that I really loved, is I focused on those. I focused on those parts of the job that I really loved. And then I started to look for things that aligned with my values. And soon, very soon, one of my mentors actually told me about a great position for me. So when you know that inner compass, you got something that guides you. It can guide you through those tough waters. And if that's something that you'd like some support with, I have to tell you, purpose work is one of my top 3 things to do. I help people through burnout because I want to help them discover that magic inside of them that only they can do. It's like, really? Burnout is like, okay, we can get through this. We can get through this burnout. We can heal this. And look what all the treasure that's going to come out. That's actually what really excites me, right? One of the things that really excites me about the work I get to do, right? I'm going to check the chat to see if anybody has questions. If you do, post them in the chat. I'm happy to answer. But if you're not, I'm going to put a link in the chat. So if there are some of you who are watching this now or watching the replay, and you're thinking, yeah, I'm at that point where I feel a values misalignment. I feel pulled in too many different directions. I'm the mom. I'm the chauffeur. I am the one at the office who does this. And then I have to be the yogi. I have to take care of myself. Once you start to see that piece that helps it all hold together, you start to feel a little more sense of wellness. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Right. My question in the chat is, how can I see it when I'm feeling done? That's what happens. That's actually one of the things that happens when we lose sight, when we feel out of touch with what is our inner wisdom. We feel absolutely done. I have nothing left to give. That's like spiritual exhaustion, right? Spiritual energy all gone. And in fact, emotional and physical energy is often also gone. One of the places to start is to just say, what in this situation do I value? Is there something in what I'm doing that matches what I value? You start with your own values, because if you haven't done this work to sort of discover, this is my purpose, this is what grounds me, then you start with your values. And that will help you begin to move your way through to get some clarity around what's the best next action to take. Always, values are a great place to start. Let me know if that helps you. That feeling done is how we know, right? I remember talking with someone who, start with values. Yeah, makes sense. Who was, in multiple roles, a daughter taking care of an elder parent, also had a preteen, running a business, and just felt like, oh, things are coming down at one time. And as I listened to the story of this colleague who was talking about taking care of a parent and something happened with the parent. You know, when your elder parent starts to have illnesses, they feel out of touch with their value. And then this was somebody who's also like a confidence kind of coach. And your preteens, when they run into things with their friends, they also feel like they're questioning their value. But the thing about this woman's work was that's actually what she did. She actually helped people connect to their confidence, connect to their deepest like value. So when I said to her, but you know, you are the person who helps people connect to their deepest sense of value, right? That's what you do all the time. So in those times when you're taking an elder parent for an appointment or something, and you have a chance to talk, or you're riding in the car, you have coffee afterwards, there's time when you can offer that sense of reminding that person how much you value them and what value they bring to the world. So when you know that, it's like, and then it was like this kind of sigh of relief. So that's what purpose can do for you. It can both bring you passion for things, and it can also help you find that sigh of relief when it feels like the world is going a little bit too crazy, right? Just checking the chat to see if there's anything else. Remember, always I come back and check under these videos often. So if you put in, if you're watching a replay or you have a question later, don't worry, I will definitely answer it. And I'm going to put in the chat also a way for you can, under each video, a way for you to reach out to me if you'd like to do so, right? Well, it's been a great Wednesday hanging with you. I will see you next week, actually. So next week, I'm sharing knowledge from my paternal grandmother. Today was my maternal grandmother. Next week is my paternal grandmother. One of my absolute favorite, another one of my absolute favorite people in the world. Before I go, though, I said I was going to show you this hat. That was one of my grandmother's other hats. So actually, I'm going to take it out now. Okay, I keep it in a box because it's made of feathers. Okay, and if you can see, it has this little like crystal thing on top. But this is this feather hat. I mean, she killed it. She killed it in this. I'm just saying. Like, is this like the coolest hat ever? She killed it. She killed it, right? All right, everybody. Thank you so much for spending time with me and my grandma, we call Mother. And I will see you next week, and you'll get to meet my grandma that that I call Mama Louise. Yes, yes, I know. Oh my goodness, this hat is like amazing, right? Look at it. It's even got little crystals all around the bottom of it. I keep it in a box because I don't want it to fall apart. It's been around for a while, and I want to keep it as long as I can. All right, everybody. Have a beautiful day. I'll see you next time.